happening here?
Can't hear them, but I can't see them.
Who's reading the preamble?
But
Dr. Collier's not here, so it should be Julie.
But I think she's having audio issues.
There you go. Can you hear me now?
There we go. We can hear you.
Okay, that was a total user error. I forgot that I was muted. I was talking. Could everybody else please mute?
Yeah, that was Adrian was giving a lot of feedback there. Go ahead.
Okay. In compliance with notification requirements of Ohio open meeting law under COVID-19 emergency declarations, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the City of Cleveland, the City Planning Department conducts its meetings according to Robert's Rule of Order. Actions during this meeting will be taken by voice vote. Abstentions from any vote due to a conflict of interest should be stated for our records prior to taking of any vote. In order to ensure that everyone participates in the meetings, have the opportunity to be heard, we ask that you use the raise hand function before asking a question or making a comment. The raise hand function can be found in the participants panel on your desktop or mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you and select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking the raised hand function icon again and mute your microphone. We will be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located at the bottom of the screen in the participants panel also.
Sure.
All meeting activities is being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube. We have provided a link to the meeting for those who wish to speak on a particular case via the website and email. We have also received emails from those to provide written comment on a particular matter.
172.
With that, we will call the September 24th Landmarks Commission meeting to order. Mr. Pettit, please call roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Please unmute your microphones. Ms. Anderson? Ms. Bailey?
Here.
Mr. Kalikia?
here,
Mr. Collier? Mr. Dreyer?
Here.
Mr. Harrison? Mr. Jones?
Go down. This is coming into.
Mr. Strickland?
Here.
Mr. Tarasik?
Here.
Ms. Trott?
Here.
Casper, that's right.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum, and I would also indicate that Carl Brunges of our staff and Stuart Hastings from the Law Department are also in attendance today.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, we'd like to welcome everyone to the Landmarks Commission meeting today. As mentioned earlier, we ask everyone to use their microphones so that we can listen to the presentations. So at this time, we'd like to move to our certificates of appropriateness. We'll start with our first applicant located at 3202 Woodbine Avenue, renovation. The applicant, please state your name or use the raised hand function so we can unmute you, and then state your name and tell us about your project.
This is David Ellison, and I don't have a raise hand function or a chat button on my screen. Sorry.
It's typically at the bottom of the page or on the left side, depending on what.
Yeah, I got a microphone, I got a camera, I got 3 dots, which don't lead me there, and an X in a red circle. And then at the top, I have, it looks like a Wi-Fi or Bluetooth symbol, a zigzaggy line, and looks like a stick figure with 3 bars.
That's the button that you click to see all the participants, and that's where the raised hand feature is as well.
Oh, sorry.
But that's
So-
okay. You know, we know who you are and you're speaking, so we can forego
I just
that.
raised my hand. How's that?
Great.
All right. Good morning, everyone. The project that we propose is to remove the vinyl siding and replace the windows on the house here at the corner. The photograph shows an aerial view of the property, and as far as we can determine, this house is on its original foundation or on its original location on its original wider lot, and hasn't significantly changed since it was put there. The one thing that is or does appear to be new is the front porch. While the house might date from the 1860s or early 1870s, the porch seems to exist from a period somewhat after that, and it has degraded. And while we could restore it, it seems a better approach and a more economical approach, given our budget, is to remove it, document it, and then remove it. And if we were looking at the pictures of the porch itself, you'd see that the moldings and the beam that holds up the roof and the porch deck itself are all in a state of decomposition and would have to be completely replaced rather than just restored. So our hope was to remove the porch and put the house back more like it had been built originally. What we found when we removed some of the vinyl siding is that there is an arched transom over the front door, and that the wood siding beneath the vinyl siding is in pretty good shape. Our plan would be to remove the vinyl siding and restore the wooden siding to a paintable condition and then paint the house.
Mr. Ellison, let me know when you want to change the slides.
We could go through the slides now. The first slide is the aerial view. The second slide is the front and side elevation. Our hope and intention is to do the entire house, but we will approach this incrementally. So the front elevation, the one there on the right, is the one that we will start with. And if our budget allows, or as our budget allows, we'll move our way around the entire house. So if you want to go to the next slide.
There's a slight delay.
Oh, sorry. And I don't know that we need to pause very long on any one of these slides because they just kind of show what's going on there. So as you can see, the existing house is covered in this gray vinyl siding. And you know, the siding has come up right across the old trim of the windows. So we'll be re-exposing the wider trim boards around the window, and we'll need to repair these sills and things that have been cut off in order to install that siding. Here you see the rotten edge of the existing porch roof and the way the beam over the front door is starting to collapse. The corner there is completely rotted out. And the whole thing would, unfortunately, would have to be rebuilt if we were trying to restore it because of the rot on it. There you see the porch deck that's rotted out. Since this porch doesn't seem to have been, there's the arch transom over the door that we exposed when we removed part of the vinyl siding. And from this evidence, it looks like the front, at least the lower half of the front lap siding is in pretty good shape, although it does have quite a paint buildup on it. And there's a historical picture. You can see that the original porch posts were turned posts, and that there are moldings on the front pediment of the porch that were stripped off when they put on the new siding. So some of what had been there as the old porch was not there anymore, and what is left is in kind of bad shape, or very bad shape, I should say. that's kind of the proposal, and we'd like your comments and approval if possible. By the way, there's a satellite dish on the front of this house on the roof that the owner is willing to remove, and we'll be cleaning up extraneous wires and things that are looped around the house as we go. Yeah, you can see that satellite dish there on the front corner.
So just to, so that the commission is clear, you're removing the siding and restoring the lap siding and restoring the trims around the windows, but are you doing anything to the windows?
Yes, the windows were replaced with either aluminum or vinyl windows, depending on which window we're talking about, and we'd be replacing them with a aluminum clad window that is has similar proportions to a traditional wood window, something like a Pella or a Colby and Colby or Marvin window. Excuse me while I put my dog in another room.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who has to do that.
Sorry about that.
No problem. And what are the colors you're proposing for both the siding and the windows?
Well, right now the house is gray and white, and we actually haven't discussed colors. Maybe that is something we could come back to you with.
Right. And what's your approach with the shutters? Are those being maintained or removed?
Those are hollow, I think, injection molded plastic shutters, and we would be removing those and not replacing them.
Okay. And are you restoring or replacing the front door?
We would be replacing the front door with a wooden 4-panel door like is shown in the picture or the drawing.
Maurice, could you go back to the drawings? That they seem to be first. There you go. Okay.
Now, on that upper window in the attic area, we don't really know what's up there. So right now there's a perforated piece of a vinyl that we presume is venting the attic. And once we expose that, we may end up learning something or doing something other than that. But we would come back to the commission for that, or at least the staff, if that would be okay.
Okay. Is there feedback from the local committee?
Are you asking me?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Thank you
good.
for the,
Sorry.
the presentation. Is there someone present from the local committee who could tell us the review by that committee?
We do have Mr. Harrison with his hand raised. I don't know if that's about the local committee. And Donna Gregonis, I imagine that would be the local committee.
That would be Donna.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So the comments from the local committee, Donna Gregonis again. Sorry, it's been a couple of weeks since I've been on Landmark Commission meeting. So the comments from the local committee are, they approved it as presented with the recommendation to relocate or remove satellite dish on the roof. And I know Mr. Ellison commented that he was planning to do that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Then I will open up it to commission's questions and comments. Mr. Harrison, seems like you had your hand raised first. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. David Ellison, is the porch that's there currently a more modern recreation of the earlier porch?
Well,
certainly the posts have been changed. I can see that, as well as the flooring. But what can you say about the sort of general character of it?
I think basically the wood framing is what was put up originally. And
Okay.
At least the moldings on the side there in the photograph with the ladder, those are moldings which I associate with houses that were built in the 1880s and 90s. The edge of that, where it comes down at the eave, on both the horizontal member and the raking member are all rotted out. So we would have to run 2 new moldings and replace the corner there. We haven't actually exposed the entire length of the eave, but it follows that the eave molding would probably be in similar condition, given that it's right there at the gutter. And then where the pediment is at the front of the house, the beam that holds the left-hand side of the roof up is rotted out where it meets the post. And there is a missing molding that I would have presumed would be original on the face of the raking board that goes up the 2 sides of the pediment. They took that off in order to install the siding right up to the underside of the roof. And you can see it in the historical picture, but and you can see the shadow of it in this picture now, if you were looking at the house. So right there at the pediment, there's a missing molding on that triangular pediment area above where you go in through to the front door. So I think that the framing is all original, and that sort of scallop siding that's on the 2 flat surfaces is probably original, and the moldings are all original, but some of them are in unrepairable condition. They'd have to be replaced, and the framing I would expect is all original, and at least that one corner needs to be replaced.
Well, this is one of those conundrums of restoration where because of the degradation of the existing material, if the owner wanted to restore this porch, that would be a nice thing. However, you'd be restoring something that isn't original, and so it would all be new once you were done with it. Is that what you're saying with regard to this?
That's pretty much it. We're also on a limited budget, and we thought that by documenting this porch as well as we could, including the molding profiles, we have a record of it. And if someone ever wanted to replace it, as a recreation, there would be documentation on it, but it wouldn't require going to the expense of rebuilding it right now.
However, it sounds like the owner would like to remove the porch in order to restore it to its original appearance, which is there. I mean, you've uncovered that lovely transom, for example, which we rarely see in Ohio City houses. So to be able to uncover that and restore the original material, which is still there, I think that's a very persuasive argument for removing this porch at this time, which wasn't original after all. And yes, it has age to it, but it has really fallen beyond repair, and many of its original decorative elements, like those posts, have been replaced. So as well as the front railing, it seems. So I support removing this, and I would support removing the satellite dish. So thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Other questions or comments from the commission?
We have Adrienne and Mr. Strickland with their hands raised.
Go ahead, Ms. Bala.
Yes. Could you go to the west elevation, the new elevation? There's Mr. Allison. Could you explain these devices between the 2 windows and the 2 small ones below the left windows? What are those? Are they being mounted to the wall, the side?
The ones at the lower level, sort of underneath the windows, are the intake and exhaust pipes for the high efficiency furnace that already exists. The one that is taller with the little square in the middle and the hook at the top is the mast for the electrical service, and the wires come in overhead and go in through that what they call a weatherhead, which is that hook at the top. They go down the conduit it's the vertical part into the little box, which is where the meter is mounted, and then they continue going down into an L, which turns the corner and goes into the house. And there's an electrical panel on the inside of all of that. So those are the heating, vents, and the electrical service. If you're curious, the little thing above near the eaves is a spotlight. It's a two-headed spotlight, and then there are the two downspouts, and then there are miscellaneous telephone and cable boxes, and then the little box towards the right is a gas meter. That's shown on the front elevation as well.
And so they are mounted on the siding of that building. Now the next question is the roofing. Are the existing roof shingles going to remain? It's not going to be replaced or anything?
It has a new roof already, and I think that it's aside from any patching that might be done where we work on the satellite dish mount, it will remain. We've called out for the chimneys to be inspected and tuck pointed if necessary. And of course, if we damage the roof in that process, we'd have to repair it. But the roof is fairly new.
That's all for me.
Go ahead, Mr. Strickland.
And I think the appearance of the house, the front elevation will be greatly enhanced with the removal of the porch, and you'll be able to see all of the features of the front elevation, including that transom. Above the door there, that transom, is that going to be a glass insert above the door or a starburst, or what will be put in that transom?
Right now, it's a piece of dimpled blue plexiglass. So we'll be replacing that with a piece of glass, I think, and we may put a gilded, painted street number, house number on it.
Oh, yeah.
On the backside.
And that's a little light fixture next to the door. Do you have any details on that?
Yeah, that's currently there, and we are required by code to have a light at the door. I don't think that the client and I have discussed the nature of that light fixture, but if that's something that you'd like to have some input on, we can run it past you.
I just think something that would be appropriate for the period for this house. If you could find the appropriate fixture, that would be an enhancement as well.
We'll run that by the staff if that would be okay.
Yeah, that would be great. All right.
Ms. Trott, we now have Ms. Anderson.
Go ahead, Ms. Anderson. I'm sorry, Mr. Strickland, were you complete?
Yes, I'm done. Thank you. Okay. I do support the applicant request to.
Excellent, thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Anderson.
Thank you. Have you had any discussion on possible paint colors? And have you found any evidence that some of the windows have been shortened? Because that often happens with these older houses. They shorten some of the first windows.
Yeah, we haven't actually discussed color, and earlier I pledged to run whatever color ideas we had past the Landmarks Commission staff, and if they think it's appropriate to run it by you all again, we'll be happy to do that. Since we haven't removed the vinyl siding, we haven't discovered any evidence of window size changes. But on the front window, the one window that we removed vinyl siding next to, it seems to be in its original window frame with its original sill, although the horns on that sill have been cut off so that the siding could be applied. And we'll have to restore the horns on the sill in order for them to look right. But that would be a question. If we do run into something where the window sizes have been changed, we may need to reevaluate what windows we order to replace them, and we'll have to deal with that when we get to that point. Right now, we're talking about limiting our project to the front face of this house, and then as budget allows, we'll move our way around one wall at a time.
Thank you. This is a very nice project. I think this will really enhance the street.
Thank you.
So my only comments would be, yes, I think we would like you to submit the final window selection. Obviously we support aluminum clad wood as our first material, and colors that are appropriate to the time period, and along with the siding color. I would encourage you to maybe not do gray, because I think you're doing a great restoration here. And why not highlight what you're doing, so that it can really be appreciated that I just have a personal bias when people paint. They do all the effort to restore wood and then they paint it a vinyl color. I would go to a more appropriate color than the gray, with your window selection also. So then just a white. So we would want those to be resubmitted. And then when you make I think those can be submitted to staff, and along with the lights, that would be helpful, so that we have the complete composition for the front of the house.
Thank you. And with your permission, I will steer them away from very dark blue with black windows, if you don't mind.
I think that's your proposal to bring back to us, is your windows and siding color.
Thank you.
But that's the only comments I have. I feel it's a good restoration, and especially restoring the door and the transom. So with that, do we have other questions or comments from the commission, or would somebody like to put forward a motion?
Look, was that Mr. Strickland? And Miss Anderson?
Yeah, if I was first, I'll move to approve removal of the porch with submission to staff of the colors, window material, the light fixture, and any other details on the front elevation, which is part of this.
Thank you. Do we have a second, Ms. Anderson? Could you unmute?
Yes, I second the motion.
Excellent. Thank you. Any further discussion?
Does this include removing the shutter too?
Is that question?
I would say it does, since he addressed that in this elevation, does not show the shutters, that the shutters will be removed during the restoration of the front of the house. So we have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? Okay, Mr. Pettit, could you please do roll call and announce the results?
Miss Anderson,
Yes.
Miss Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Kalikia, Mr. Kalikia, are you there?
Go ahead, sir, you're unmuted.
Mr. Kalikia?
Or give us the thumbs up or thumbs down.
Thumbs up. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Santora, are you sitting in for Director Collier today?
I can be. I thought he would be here, but yes, I can if you need me to.
Okay. Would you like to vote on this
I'm
issue?
going to abstain from this one since I joined a little bit halfway through.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Dreyer,
Yes.
Mr. Harrison,
Yes.
Mr. Strickland,
Yes.
Mr. Charasic,
Yes.
Ms. Trott.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously with one abstention.
Excellent. Thank you. We look, excuse me. We look forward to the restoration.
Thank you. Bye.
We'll move on to our second applicant, located at Lorraine, 9607 Lorraine Avenue, pole sign for Stuff Yourself the Kitchen. Could the applicant please use the raise hand function so you can be unmuted and tell us about your project?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Adele Winsek, and I am presenting on behalf of Aldo Duray. And today we are proposing altering an existing pole sign for this location. And the existing pole sign has been there for over 30 years. We are proposing removing the circular box and the hot dog shape and replacing it with a more modern take. The cabinet is to take a contour shape around the logo, and that is to make it more visually interesting. And the existing pole will be painted black. This location, unfortunately, is subject to vandalism, and that is just one of the reasons why we are wanting to utilize this pole sign. Another reason is to give the customer more exposure. Everyone is aware that the more exposure a business has, the better chance it has to succeed. So, the existing sign lies within the landscaping bank that the width of that is approximately about 2 feet wide. And that space is not conducive to create/install a ground sign that would be beneficial to the tenant. It would also invite unwelcome vandalism being so low to the ground. So that is why we are trying to utilize the existing, and I am open to hearing any questions or comments regarding this.
Ms. Trott, it looks like we have, is it Donna Gregonis has her hand up again? And looks like also Don Pettit.
Okay, this is Ms. Gregonis. Go ahead. Are you speaking on behalf of the committee?
She may have had her hand raised from the last one. I'm not sure.
Okay, then Don, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Adam Davenport is here from City Planning staff, and he may want to speak to the committee's decision. I just want to give some background about why these two items are on the agenda today. Both of them involve pole signs. Both of them are the same ownership and the same sign company. They're both storefront renovation program projects. And it's our policy not to bring storefront renovation program projects to the commission. They go through a long design vetting process to begin with. Our one exception is that we require that they all go through design review. In the case of these two items, the sign packages were both approved by the committees, but they turned down the two pole signs. And the reasoning was that they don't want to encourage any new pole signs or any substantial overhauls of the existing pole signs on Lorraine Avenue. So we're here today because the owner is appealing that recommendation. We always have the prerogative to take these issues to the commission, and that's why we're here today. I can talk about the history of these two signs as we get into the discussion, but the reason we're here, is because of the appeal, and I'll let Adam add anything else that he thinks is pertinent.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Davenport.
Thank you. Adam Davenport. I'm one of the neighborhood planners on staff with the City Planning Commission. I'm also in charge of the Far West Design Review Committee, which from time to time sees, projects for recommendation to this commission and to Don and Carl. So we saw the two projects that are on the agenda and next on the agenda. First off, I'd like to, commend BNext and Adele. They've always been very great to work with. They go through the permitting process, which is a lot to say for some other sign contractors around the city, for sure. So I think that should be noted. I won't reiterate too much of what Don said. He did a good job summarizing what the committee felt, that the committee felt that there is substantial signage in place or will be placed in the buildings, and the encouragement of new or heavy substantial overhauls of existing pole signs should generally not be encouraged, and they should either look to do some monument signs and amend the landscaping and parking areas around those buildings, or maybe there's a compromise with a different, it would be a eastern and western facade sign for the next two projects. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, then I'll open it up to the commission for questions or comments.
We have Mr. Harrison and Mr. Santora with their hands raised.
Go ahead, Mr. Harrison.
You're muted, sir.
Sorry about that. So the color to be that sort of sharp green and black.
I didn't quite catch that.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Excuse me, is the color meant to be that sort of chartreuse green and black? And is that LED? The whole sign is meant to be LED?
So the color is green and black. Yes, that is the customer's, logo and branding. And the sign would be internally illuminated with LEDs. Yes.
All right. Well, there is, I think, a line to be drawn between visibility, higher visibility, and garishness. And unfortunately, we have to try to find where that line exists. And I'm sensitive to the fact that they have chosen the green to be their brand. However, I feel this sign is really garish, and I don't support putting that color on a pole sign in an historic district. Others may feel differently, but I don't.
I'm sorry, who is next?
We had Mr. Santora, and then we have Mr. Strickland.
Go ahead, Mr. Santora.
Thank you, Madam Commissioner. Is there a signage plan that shows where these signs are located in relation to the building and each other? I'm having a real difficulty seeing where that pole sign sits in relation to the building, to the other sign. I see you have some existing photos here, but is there some type of overall aerial or site plan that will show us where these signs are sitting in conjunction to the street? There we go. Can we zoom in, maybe?
No, but you can if you click on the annotate button, you should get a plus or minus, and
Okay,
you'll be able to each individually zoom in.
Okay. I mean, I tend to agree with Mr. Harrison. I think the pole sign is a little much. I think there are probably alternate things that can be done from a signage perspective. Do you guys anticipate, because it looks like you are just putting the pole sign a little bit farther to the east of the building. So I'm not understanding why any type of building signage couldn't get you the same result without the pole sign.
I think it's good.
I mean, ultimately, I think the customer is just trying to, gain as much exposure as possible for this location. I do see what you're saying, that the pole sign is a bit farther, away from the building. But I mean, since it was existing, he obviously would like to try and utilize that.
I personally was just on Google Earth myself, trying to get some understanding of where the sign was versus the building. And I also feel aligned with that. It's so close that a building sign would probably be more effective to bring attention to the building and the establishment versus, because of its location, it's removed from the establishment itself. Like, it's not helping bring better, awareness of the establishment. I, personally feel like another building mounted sign could be more effective, like on the brick panel or something that is visible from the street, since you have clear sight lines to the building. But I think I just jumped somebody else who had their hand raised. So who had their
Mr.
hand.
Strickland.
Go ahead, Mr. Strickland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with Mr. Harrison and the comments from Mr. Davenport that the use of pole signs should be discouraged in a historic district, and an opportunity to eliminate a pole sign we should take advantage of. And so I would not be in support of utilizing this pole sign. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, now we have Ray Tarasik.
Go ahead, Mr. Tarasik.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think I want to echo my colleagues' comments. I think just from a pure signage standpoint, the signs on the structure itself provide very, very good visibility, in my opinion. And I appreciate the branding with your client, but I would have to agree with Mr. Harrison, and even in the use of his terms and garishness. It is a bit much, I think, for the colors on that signage as well.
Other questions or comments from the commission?
We have Mr. Pettit.
Go ahead, Mr. Pettit.
I just wanted to point out the part of the history of this site. The existing pole sign actually went through the storefront program about 20 years ago. And the reasoning was that both of these buildings we're going to look at today have associated parking lots, and they're both in some way automobile related. And I think that at that time they were trying to take advantage of a pole sign to bring more visibility to the buildings. And I just wanted to point that out.
I think it's a wonderful proposal for this location, and I, supports the owner and them taking this location, because there's a lot of opportunity here. Yeah, and I just want that to be noted for the record too. Other questions or comments from the commission?
No hands raised at this time.
Okay. Would someone like to put forward a motion then?
Oh, Mr. Harrison.
Go ahead, Mr. Harrison.
All right. Sorry, I'm muting myself so much today. It's sensing the mood of the commission. I would like to propose that we reject this proposal as presented.
Don, is that the appropriate motion or disapprove? You just muted yourself, Don.
It's essentially it's essentially a motion to deny.
Okay, yes, well, I will amend that to be a motion to deny this proposal. So a vote yes would be to deny it.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Bob Strickland, I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a second. Any further discussion? I think just the comments that I think it's wonderful that the owner's taking this location, is going through the storefront program, and bringing more life to this area. Unfortunately, pole signs are something that we're discouraging, especially in locations like this in the historic district. Any further discussion? Right.
I was trying to find my mute button. I heard a lot of concerns about the design, and I understand that the owner wants the color and the wording as well. So before we made the vote, we already made a motion, but before we vote on it, due to the fact that there's some concerns on it, can this be, I'm asking a question, can this be like table and have the owner have opportunity to look at this versus voting on it? I didn't hear the opportunity to offer that.
Ever the peacemaker, I would withdraw my motion to support that, which Commissioner Bailey has suggested to table, if other commission members support that as well.
Well, let's step over.
We have
up a
Michelle
little bit.
Anderson.
Go ahead, Ms. Anderson.
Thank you. I would support tabling the motion. Accommodation they can make, modify that sign.
Okay, so, but I would just ask the question, based on, is it the pole sign and the use of the pole sign that the commission just gave their feedback on, or is it the color that is being placed on that pole sign? Yeah, because I don't, want to give the applicants misleading information that if the colors are changed, that we are going to support the pole sign. So I'd ask the commission to please respond to that.
We have Mr. Strickland.
Go ahead, Mr. Strickland.
That was going to be my point exactly, that I understand the comments regarding the color, but I am opposed to pole signs, and any opportunity we have to remove them, I would try to take advantage of. So I would prefer just to deny the applicant's approval of this project and not try to mislead them that there's some way that I would in the future support a different design for that pole sign.
And my comment before, and I'm sorry you're hearing air conditioned unit. I'm at another location. So this motion is just only for the sign, not the signs on the building? This overall motion?
It was a motion to deny the whole project, the whole presentation that was presented, just as a matter of expediency. But this is why I shouldn't make motions, because it's difficult for me to frame them with not as much experience as others. So look, why don't we start over? I will withdraw my motion and somebody else can make a motion one way or the other.
Before another motion moves forward, before another motion, Adrian, can you mute for a second? There you go. And just to be clear, Mr. Pettit, what is on our agenda just says pole sign. Are we reviewing everything that was presented today, or just the pole sign? Was he already approved, or they, sorry, not to use the gender there, were they already approved for the building sign by the storefront program and or local committee?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. According to our policy, we only review, the commission only reviews storefront renovation program projects if there's an issue or a disagreement. The other signage on the building has been approved by the local committee, so I would consider that to be outside of our purview today. We're only here to take action on the pole sign in the parking lot.
So,
well, thank you for the clarification. I apologize, but that motion that Mr. Harrison presented, would not mind using that motion.
Well, let's go to Mr. Trosik's comments. Go ahead, Mr. Trosik.
Thank you. I think Mr. Pettit cleared up my confusion as well. As I understand it, the sign on the storefront, even the color scheme that's being used has been approved, and that is not at issue here. The only issue that we have here is the use of the pole sign as a pole sign and not necessarily the colors itself. So the colors and the signage on the storefront are outside of our purview. The only issue we have is the one as to whether or not the pole sign can be utilized. And I share the same comments and concerns as Mr. Strickland and Mr. Harrison with respect to the pole sign, which I believe then would make the original motion of Mr. Harrison once again appropriate, as far as my understanding is concerned. And please tell me if I misunderstand any of that.
I think your comments and Ms. Bailey's also are appropriate, but that motion has been withdrawn. So if that is the feeling, we would need a new motion to use.
Before we do this, those two trains on this, that's not part of the design, is it? The post in front of us with the number 5 and it had looked like a train at the top. Before we go further.
I think what you're referring to is on the pole. It's on the utility pole in front of the building. It's a district-wide branding that Cadell Improvement put up a few years ago to acknowledge the history of the Lorraine Station Historic District. Those are both trolley cars.
Maurice, can you could you forward the slides to the poll itself?
I'm sorry.
Could you forward the slide?
Right there?
There we go. So to what we're reviewing.
Sorry.
That's okay.
We have Mr. Harrison with his hand raised and Ms. Anderson as well.
Well, I'll defer to Ms. Anderson because I was going to restate my motion.
Go ahead, Ms. Anderson.
Thank you. I know that pole sign was up 20 years ago when the building went through the original storefront renovation program. Was it there 50 years ago, 60 years ago, or is that something that was installed 20 years ago?
I can't speak to its prior history. You know, it was 25 years ago. It was there was a florist occupying the building, and they had a pole sign up for a long time. There were long-time tenants in the building, but I can't speak to how far back a pole sign or this pole sign actually goes prior to the storefront program.
Just for clarification, Don, can you remind me if I am remembering this correctly? You know, pole signs are not really approved or acceptable per our current zoning code. They're grandfathered in if they are changing the face material only, but as soon as they start to make major modifications, then they go into our current zoning regulations. Is that correct?
I'm not sure. It's my understanding that pole signs are still allowed per the sign regulations. There are specific, you know, specifications that they have to meet depending on the zoning, but they're still part of the code as far as I know. You know, we tend to discourage them. We like to remove as much clutter in the streetscape as we can when signs become obsolete, or if somehow they oversign a business. They're still subject to design review, we're not beholden to the code. We can vary the sign code if we think if it's more appropriate for a sign to be bigger or smaller than it is. But they're still allowed in certain circumstances in the sign regulations.
Okay. I was remembering that incorrectly then, so thank you for that clarifying that. So with that, would someone like to put forward a motion, or do we have further questions or comments?
And we have Mr. Harrison again. Maybe he's going to make another attempt.
The third's a charm.
Even though pole signs exist for polecats, I would like to make a motion to deny this proposal as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Anthony Santor, I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
So just to clarify, a vote yes is to deny this proposal, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
Oh, just Mr. Pettit.
Mr. Pettit, did you have... Go ahead.
Thank you. Just so I'm clear, we're denying the sign on this pole. Are we taking any action on the existing pole itself?
I thought that included the entire pole.
So we're asking, the applicant would have to remove the pole as well, correct?
I assume so. Should that be made clear in the motion?
I think it would help, yes.
I then would like to amend my motion to say, in addition, the pole must be removed.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Santoro, do you support that amendment?
I still support it.
Okay, so we have our second then. Mr. Pettit, could you please call roll and announce the results?
Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Kalikia, Mr. Kalikia, please unmute if you're still there.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Santoro,
Yes.
Mr. Dreyer,
Yes.
Mr. Harrison,
Yes.
Mr. Strickland,
Yes.
Mr. Tarasik,
Yes.
Ms. Trott.
Yes.
The motion to deny passes unanimously.
To the applicant, like we said, we support this project and the revitalization of this building. You are welcome to come back with a new proposal for signage related to the parking lot, either through monument or additional signage within the building. Or
Okay.
placed on the building, I should say.
I appreciate it.
We'll move on to our third applicant, which is the same applicant related to 9600 Lorraine Avenue pole sign for the Genesis Daycare Center.
Okay, so this is basically along the same lines as what I was just presenting previously. Yet this sign is not going to be an extensive overhaul to the existing. We will be keeping the existing shape. We will just be using aluminum and mounting that directly to the existing can. And that will include painting the pole. And I believe the design has been updated through Tim Barrett. He had told me yesterday, yep, that's the one, that they had simplified the design. And that is the one that is now being proposed. for the sign.
Madam Chair, we have, I'm not sure if it's Mr. Pettit or Mr. Harrison.
Oh, sorry about that.
Go ahead, Mr. Pettit first, and then we can move on to Mr. Harrison.
I just wanted to indicate again that this is another project that went through the storefront renovation program 20 years ago. This was done for the Lorraine Station Arcade. It was it was an automobile related business historically, and this sign was put up in the associated parking lot next to it. But the committee, the Far West Committee made the same recommendation about this sign.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments from the local committee, I should say. Is there feedback from the local committee, or is that the feedback done?
I think so, unless Adam Davenport has anything to add.
No, I don't have anything else to add. Thank you.
We did have Mr. Harrison then.
Okay, we'll open up to the commission. Go ahead, Mr. Harrison.
Is this sign going to be lit?
Not internally. There is an existing light at the top of the sign that would still stay there.
Okay, and I'm sorry, what was the design review commission? I know you said it's the same as the last one, but could you restate it for this project, Mr. Pettit?
They recommended denial of the pole sign, again, for the reasons that they want to discourage new pole signs and don't want to see substantial overhauls of existing pole signs.
Thank you very much.
Other questions or comments from the commission?
Mr. Strickland.
Go ahead, Mr. Strickland.
Madam Chair. Yeah, for the same reasoning as the prior project, I agree with the local design review committee that an opportunity to remove pole signs we should take advantage of. And I would have the same opinion to deny this application.
Thank you. Further feedback from the commission?
No hands raised.
Okay, just for my own understanding, are you taking the whole building here, the whole existing or previous Lorraine Station building, or just the storefront?
I believe she's taking the entire building.
Okay. I guess my feedback would be the same. I could support additional signage on an alternate face of the building so that you can still get the visibility from a car, or even a marquee style sign that does project off the front of the face so that it is visible from both sides or directions of travel. I think that's where I would encourage the applicant to look, is so that you can still have that visibility that you're looking for. Other questions or comments from the commission?
No hands raised.
Okay, would someone like to put forward a motion then, if there's no further questions or comments?
Mr. Strickland.
Go ahead, Mr. Strickland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would move to deny this application for the modified pole sign and require the removal of the existing pole.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? No?
No hands raised.
Okay. Mr. Pettit, could you please call roll and announce the results?
Please unmute your microphones. Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Colicchio,
Yes.
Mr. Santoro,
Yes.
Mr. Dryer,
Yes.
Mr. Harrison,
Yes.
Mr. Strickland,
Yes.
Mr. Tarasic,
Yes.
Ms. Trott.
Yes.
The motion to deny passes unanimously.
Okay. My comments would be the same to the applicant. I think we're very excited, on your proposed renovation and bringing this business to the neighborhood, but would encourage you to look at other ways to gain that visibility to the business on those alternate faces.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. That concludes our certificates of appropriateness. We'll move on to concept plan review. Just a reminder for everyone that we will not be voting on this project. We'll be just giving design feedback and clarifying questions or comments. This is the Dow resident at 3811 Clinton Avenue, single family house and garage construction. Please go ahead.
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Jason Rohal, and my wife, Christine, is joining us here as well. So as Ms. Trott said, we're looking for comments and walking through the design with you here. So the design is at 3811 Clinton Avenue. So I'm the architect of the home and also the future hopeful homeowner right here, just west of West 38th Street on the south side of Clinton Avenue. Looking to construct I'll call it 2.5. It's really 2 full stories with a steep gable at the northern portion of the lot, and a 2-car garage detached at the rear of the lot, being accessed off of Vine Court. The form of the house itself is influenced by several of the homes that are found on the street, and acknowledges the gable form and proportion of the homes. One specific project that we referenced heavily was Brainerd Terrace near 4201 Clinton. It's an Andrew Mittermiller project that was renovated just a couple years ago. The form of the house as well acknowledged.
If you want your plans to advance, just tell Maurice to advance or to forward or backwards.
Sure thing. And actually, this is the perfect slide to stop at right here. So the form and proportion of the house is in similar context to those that surround it. So a steep pitched gable. We've got a 12-12 roof slope here, horizontal hardy plank siding. And a large front porch that wraps from that extends from one side of the home to the other. We've adjusted the proportion, the fenestration on the front of the house, as well as the front porch dimensions, as suggestions from Ohio City Design Review and the local block club as well. So we did receive an initial approval from the block club, as well as an unofficial thumbs up from the Ohio City Design Review for the design here. So in color and form, so we're looking to go darker with the hardy plank along the front of the house. So right now we've got a couple colors picked out in the realm of Sherwin-Williams iron ore, which is a dark gray with black window trim. And as we wrap the home, we continue the hardy plank around. And if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Rulin's advancing a couple slides here. We show the rear of the house. Advance another slide, please. One of the facades of the house showing the hardy plank wrapping about midway back. And then if you would advance one more slide, please. We show the hardy plank returning to a logical point where horizontal metal panel is used. And this is, apologies for that little white, there's like a little white vertical piece that's shown. That's not supposed to be there. It's just a little drawing error. But we're looking to use a metal panel similar to the Trimble residence, just a few houses to the west, but we're going to go dark in color, looking to match the dark gray that's going to be wrapped around the front of the house in the hardy plank material. And then if you wouldn't mind advancing towards the end, I have some axonometric shots of the home here, and then the following there. And then, so those are the principal, the two beginning ones are the principal facades facing Clinton Avenue. And then the other two show the rear of the house. And then the subsequent slides show just some views from adjacent viewpoints down the street. And I just captured those using Google Earth. So there's, it's not 100% up to date, but I will note projects immediately adjacent to the site. So immediately to the west, we have a 4-story apartment building with you can kind of see it on the second, that lower, if you go back one slide through the trees right here. So it's actually 3 full stories with a steep pitched gable. And it has kind of an interesting roof line there. We have a large project with a flat roof going up 4 full stories just to the east called the Nikolai at 38th and Clinton. And then there are several other projects. Again, I referenced the Trimble residence just a few houses down. They are using metal panel in terms of materiality as a reference point. We've got a steeper roof pitch than Mr. Trimble and Sarah. And in these photos as well, you can see the steep pitch gable roof lines of many of the properties that surround, as well as many of the front porches. Something that I didn't mention previously, we are looking to add a good bit of landscaping in the front and sides of the home as well, to add some lushness and greenery to it. So additionally, in terms of just the home itself, we are looking to contextualize it even more with some greenery and some lushness there. And I think that's everything just from a rundown perspective. So please would love feedback and questions, and would love to address any questions that everyone has here today.
Excellent, thank you. Do we have feedback from the local committee?
Hi, good morning. Donna Gregonis Bailey with Ohio City Incorporated. Yes, so the comments from the local committee are as follows. Let me double check. So they said the recommendations are there was no action taken as this was just a concept review, but they commented that the amorphous nature of the roof was both challenging from a form and design perspective, as well as practicality, and that it might be better ended at a different point that reflects a change in material. Roof might also be better off at a pitch or with the front gable as a facade. They also commented that porch would be more useful and attractive if it was wrapped on the entire front of the home. In addition, the asymmetrical nature and size of windows should be reviewed to make sure window placement reads as intentional and window size seems proportional. And then they also mentioned that applicant should review comments from committee and provide drawings to reflect the recommendations when coming back. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Ms. Bailey.
Did the applicant want to say something before we move to the
Looks
commission?
like he did raise his hand as well.
Yep, sure
Okay.
thing. To Donna's comments, so that was those comments were per the one of the first meetings that we submitted for, and a few things were addressed per those comments. So one, we extended the front porch only extended about halfway across the front facade of the house previously. We've extended that all the way across. Regarding the window placement, The suggestion was to enlarge and align them in a manner that is a little bit more intentional. We did so as well. And upon the subsequent block club meeting, there are members that have overlap between Ohio State Design Review and the local block club. Those were addressed and actually approved by the members who suggested those changes, and they were supportive of those moves that were made, as well as the western facade of the house, which you see on the left side of this axonometric right here. We ended up pulling down the rear roof past the void that you see about midway through. The rear roof pitch was increased so that the apparent soffit line is lower to the ground than it was previously. So all of the concerns were addressed in a manner that several of the reviewers felt that were appropriate, or at least acknowledged the suggestions to those comments.
Thank you for that clarification.
It looks like Ms. Ragonis had her hand raised again.
Yes. Sorry, I failed to mention also that a lot of the comments that were made at the local design review and at Block Club were reflected on some of the drawings. So I just wanted to point that out. I think it's an important thing to note in this conceptual review. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
We had Ms. Bailey first and then Mr. Harrison.
Go ahead, Ms. Bailey.
I'm glad that you described the roof part on the drawing that you've shown, unless you can go to another image. I'm just seeing so many roof lines and wondering how the function is going to be. Again, this 3D drawing is not really, it's almost as if I'm looking at the higher pitch and it's further up, and then it looked like it's sloping down to the center, and then it's going further to the front. So I wasn't sure how your roof line is functioning with the 3D drawing.
Sure thing. Mr. Rulins, if you could go back a couple slides, there is a roof plan that might address some of this as well.
Just tell me which you want to stop.
Going back a few more slides here. Keep going. Keep going. Yeah, go back go back one more. There we go. And not sure if you were able to zoom in right here, but to Ms. Bailey, to your point, or to clarify here, so running straight down from the front of the home to the rear, so essentially the major roof ridge starts at the northern edge of the home in the center and continues all the way to the rear of the house. And there's a cross gable that intersects that you can see. It's a little bit tough to see from the drawing that I'm looking at. I just have a smaller screen. But right where they intersect right here, that's where the roof pitches change. So we go from a 12-12 at the front of the house to a 6-12 at the rear of the home.
So what's happening in the back, in the rear, where the line does not meet at the corner? So what's going on there on the upper left?
Oh, I see. So at that point, that's where the material transition occurs on the west facade. And at that point, so basically where the valley meets the western edge, that would be guttered from that intersecting point all the way north to the upper leftmost corner. So that would be guttered right there. And Mr. Rulins, if you wouldn't mind advancing, I think 2 or 3 slides. One more, please. And another one. And I think one more. Yep. So you can see on in this elevation right here. So if you see the entry to the dwelling on the lower left-hand corner of the drawing. So as you go straight up from the right-hand side of that door, that's where that side gable meets the side of the house right there. So that's where that valley hits the gutter line at that point.
Miss Bailey, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I'm curious how many downspouts and gutter going to be applied to this. Because right now I can't really see. I understand what you're saying, but I just want you to kind of look more how the location of the downspouts and the gutter and et cetera. Now I have a few other things. The porch, the columns. Can you go back to one of the 3Ds again? It's just a 3D. It's not really accurate because I'm looking at the stairs in the column. If you can find one right there, that's good enough. You can. Now, I know that you don't have the step in front of the columns, so it's offside from there. But I'm looking at the size of it. Do you have an idea what size of those columns are?
Right now, it's 6-inch diameter.
Pardon me?
6-inch diameter.
Okay, one more time, Jason.
Oh, sure. 6-inch diameter columns.
Compared to the rest. I'm trying to get this right. What's the height, the overall height of the house compared to the neighbors on the side, especially at the center part? Is it at the same height as the two sides, the highest point?
So the highest point is right about 36 feet, but the average height of the roof is around 32 feet, and we're about 4 or 5 feet taller than the dwelling to the east of us, and we're about 8 we're a few feet shorter than the highest point on the building to the west of us.
While you're at this view, I know you're trying to show the interior. So the opening on the side, that's not an actual open. That's just wanting you to show us the inside, correct?
So, along the eastern facade, there is a void that's extracted from the side of the house. Because the lot is narrow and deep, we wanted to be able to get maximize the amount of daylight that we were able to get in the interior of the house. So it's acting as a light well, and and that portion that you're looking at is an actual void carved out of the side of the house. And where that void exists, we make a transition of material to a dark stained horizontal wood at that point.
Last question. Either you can add some things is missing in the front. The design part, it looks too plain. Just wonder if you can enhance it either by using railing that sits on the step around the porch. It's just 3 columns and a pitched roof. It's just needs to get a little enhanced. But since that's the main front entry of the house, so that's my concept of adding something just to enhance the porch. So I heard that you made the stairs a little wider. I'm not sure if this is the drawing that we're looking at based on the design community review comments. So the front, I feel, needs to get more enhanced, the front porch. That's my comments.
Okay, thank you. Other questions or comments from the commission?
Mr. Harrison had his hand raised.
Go ahead, Mr. Harrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that you have used a reference to the gabled roofs that so characterize houses in this neighborhood, this historic district. But I couldn't agree more with Commissioner Bailey that the front facade needs more work, particularly that flat portico and those columns. It looks it looks too insubstantial for the mass of the rest of the building, and so it feels unfinished. And I don't know that that's the look that you were hoping to achieve, but in fact, such an unfinished look would not really be appropriate in this historic district. So I feel that it needs I don't know what it needs. I would leave that up to you to figure out. But the 6-inch square posts are just not substantial enough with that very industrial treatment of that portico. I mean, it just, to me, I agree. It leaves the facade of this building seemingly unfinished. There's no cornice. There's no there are no belt courses or anything like that to define the space on the front. I personally think it's very interesting how you've treated the roof lines, but I really would confine my comments to this front facade, and I feel that it needs more attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments from the commission?
None at this time. We have Michelle Anderson.
Go ahead, Ms. Anderson, and then I have a few comments also.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to harken back to our former Commissioner Laura Ballard here. When she would talk about Orphan Annie windows, I still find these single pane windows off-putting when seen in a historic district. And I don't think we necessarily have to have a window down the middle, but I just find this design not consistent with the area that we're replacing this building. So I would like that to be addressed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I guess my comments are a little differing from Ms. Anderson's comments. I don't mind the modern interpretation. I appreciate that you're trying to work within the classical silhouette and doing a modern interpretation. I think we see so many flat roofs, new constructions that it's nice to have something that is trying to take inspiration from the classical form. Looking at the front elevation, though, it feels like we're just a little off. Having things asymmetrical here, I don't think helps the design. I think it hurts the design, meaning your second and first floor windows not being centered within the facade makes those windows feel more awkward. Where if this was more of a symmetrical design similar to the traditional form, but using a more modern window, I think I would support the design more and or the change in the window size on the right side feels awkward to me because you've taken that very traditional symmetrical form and it just doesn't feel as thought through and in proportion. Related to the porch, I would agree that it feels a little out of proportion related to the rest of the house. And I'd say more specifically where it's located, that traditional, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, or something that, is relating to that. You're just off of it. So being so delicate and it feels a little squat because of, how much of the house is above it versus below. So that's, I guess, my input on that. And then if we go to the axon that showed the side that we were just looking at previously, that one right there, I guess I would appreciate more, and I know it's a huge design comment, but having more of the roof, that third floor porch on this side makes that front elevation feel very it also feels a little unsubstantial. That I think if you had more of the roof line at the front of the house and then you peeled it back for porches and sort of unraveled the traditional form as you went further back in the house, I would like it better because I like I said, I don't mind the modern, interpretation and that you're starting with that classical form, but how delicate that transition from the front elevation to that porch to me feels very awkward and takes away from all of the hard work that you're doing to try to provide that respect to the traditional form. So That I know is a design impact though, but I think that would really help your design if you look into that. I think those are my major comments. And I think downspouts and really understanding the impact on your elevation, as Miss Bailey said, would also be helpful because of all the changes in roof, how those are going to be impact and really provide those separations in some cases of, and reinforcing your change in materials would be good because you're going to have, some downspouts that may end up in awkward locations. Like for example, the rear corner in this elevation, how that's going to interact with your column on the first floor and so forth, because you have that revealed corner. And then regarding the colors, once again, I like the mix of the more natural wood and, I'm sorry, I forgot the color gray that you said you were using. Just being, what color, once again, would be your gutters and downspouts to reinforce, your color palette. Because they will become a major, element with how many roof transitions you have.
Iron ore is our proposed color for the main body of the house, and then any accents would be black, just to kind of allow that to kind of go away. And any of the accent colors and trims are going to be black.
Okay. So I think those black accents of all of the gutters and downspouts would also help. It would reinforce your design by including those, that understanding rather than the awkward stripes that we see across buildings when people don't really take that into consideration.
Got it. I will mention, I want to make sure I'm following protocol here. Am I allowed to make a comment in?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So the front facade of the house is also driven by interior program as well. So the window placement and the size of those windows is indeed driven by what's happening inside. It might. I think that the second floor plan, Mr. Rulins, if you wouldn't mind going back just a few slides there, you can see as the there we go. So as we're looking at this second floor plan right here, in regard to the front facade of the house here, the windows are off-centered to bring light into that large 2-story volume near the front of the house in the upper right-hand corner here, the northeast corner. But it also is aligning with circulation that is found on the first, second, and third floor of the home. And as we begin to shift the windows around to become entirely symmetrical about the center of the home, it does cause some interesting how could I say intersections or some things that become problematic with the interior form of the house. And we can absolutely look at maybe a change in material in the front of the house to shift the apparent center to bring things a little bit more perhaps within that intentionality is the term that we've used with the Block Club and Ohio City Design Review. But right now that is the rationale behind the placement of it, just to make everyone aware as well.
And I appreciate that. But I think inside out, outside in, I think there has to be that marrying in the middle sometimes too. So as you continue to design, I would just continue to look at that, because that's one of the things that's, really feels unresolved to me. We're getting that balance of, what is driving what and the compromise on both sides.
Mr. Harrison had his hand raised.
Go ahead, Mr. Harrison.
So looking at this and following on from your comment, are we really meant to be looking at the side of a washing machine from the front facade of this house? I mean, I find that really disturbing. I think you could use a louvered panel or some sort of false window or remove it altogether. But I mean, to have a single window pane bringing light into a laundry room, I mean, that's what a light switch is for and an overhead pendant. You're not meant to look at the side of a washing machine from the front facade of this building. I just find that really disturbing. And I'm afraid that would be a deal breaker if you brought this back to the commission for me.
Well, I think, our privy is on the exterior of the building, and, I do appreciate your treatments that could be used on the interior or exterior to hide that view. We can't really comment on the use that's behind that, but how they're going to treat that view. You're on mute.
It was merely reflective of how the exterior will be used, not the interior. I'm not at all opposed to putting a laundry there. I think that's marvelous to have a laundry there. I think the problem is being able to walk along across the street and look directly into that window, because we can't mandate that you put drapes up or blinds or something like that. So I think from the exterior, if you used a false window of some sort, or there are plenty of solutions to that to maintain the symmetrical or the placement of windows as you'd like on the facade. But to have a single pane there would really be, in my view, not good at all.
I also have a comment to address that as well, Mr. Rulins, if you wouldn't mind advancing a few slides to the front facade of the home, please. Earlier it was mentioned that the sill height of the window was a little bit off because it's not consistent with those that are adjacent to it. The reason for the sill height being as it is right here is to hide everything behind it so that everything is shielded from view from the street.
I still have a problem with that. I'm sorry.
Other questions, comments, or feedback from the commission?
Was that somebody raised their hand? Was that Mr. Harrison again or Donna Gregonis?
Sorry, I think my hand was raised in error.
So was mine.
And nobody.
Okay. Does the applicant feel like you've gotten feedback from the commission?
Absolutely.
Okay, or clear feedback, I should say, because you've received feedback, but clear feedback.
Sure. And if the commission wouldn't mind, if I were just to relay back a few things, the principal comments are centered around the front porch and making it a little bit more substantial to bring it into a little bit more appropriate form or proportionality or size and ornament with those surrounding it, as well as addressing the front facade, the position of fenestration, and how some interior program is hidden or displayed from the street.
I think that is the major comments, yes.
Okay, I understand completely, and I appreciate the comments and feedback.
Excellent. Thank you. We look forward to returning for your final review.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All righty.
So that concludes our concept plan review. Any administrative reports or meeting minutes? It looks like we have nothing. Any administrative reports today?
I just have a couple items, and they are related to personnel. Ava Schmidt is with us today. She has been chosen as our new AmeriCorps community surveyor. I believe she's with us. She will be surveying a neighborhood in Cleveland yet to be determined. She's an urban studies. She has an urban studies degree from Ohio University. We're still working on getting her onboarded, but we expect her to start with us sometime next week.
Excellent. Welcome.
The other The other item I think I should bring up today is that we're about to lose one of our commission members. Mr. Harrison will be leaving us after the next meeting for a bigger and better opportunity in Utica, New York. And I think we all will miss him and wish him well in the future.
That's very, very kind of you, Don. Thank you.
And I think I said it to you in an email that, you know, it's a wonderful opportunity and we're very happy for you, but sad for us because I truly have appreciated your feedback and participation in the commission. So thank you for everything you've given to the commission, and I personally wish you the best.
Thank you very much.
But we still have you for one more meeting, so.
That's right. Yes, so hopefully there won't be any murals next week.
There you go. A virtual, you know, send off.
Right.
We'll have to figure out what that means. So
I think Mr. Brunges
don't
had a
let me
comment.
make a motion.
Go ahead, Mr. Brunges.
Hi, we have two site visits we're going to be scheduling for the Broadway Historic District in the near future. So I wanted to just put that on your radar. One is on East 55th, and then there's another one just around the corner as well. So I'll be sending out invites soon to see when people are available to do that.
Excellent. We will keep our eyes open for those. Is there anything else that we need to review today, or are we at the point to adjourn?
I think that's all we've got.
All right, then we will adjourn today's meeting and look forward to seeing everybody again in 2 weeks. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, bye.